everybody, and welcome back to Syllabus Stories, where we go through your syllabus content and the pattern interpretations and the meanings behind them. Now today we are focusing on DoSan, the green stripe syllabus. Now DoSan has 24 movements in it, which is to numbers symbolising the life of man, 24 hours in a day, and which is also why there is 24 patterns in Taekwondo, representing the 24-hour clock, life of man. Now, DoSan is the pseudonym, or for kids, nickname of the patriot An Chang-ho, who lived between 1878 and 1938. Now, in the encyclopedia, there is a reported misprint. Thank you very much for Senior Master Bernat from Poland for bringing this to our attention. And it says 1876 was his birth year. Yeah, he was a very, very important man actually, and he helped educate the Koreans and also started up the independence movement. That's the short version. Now the long version is a lot more interesting and has a lot more sort of modern day politics in it really. So to start you with a background on what was going on at the time, Japan was more or less occupying Korea, and they absolutely occupied Korea, completely removed all government, etc., especially in the 1900s. So there was a lot of political turmoil and issues around there. But DoSan, to start with, believed that the Japanese and the Koreans could work together, and that kept stating to Japanese officials that, you know, if they'd work with the Koreans, that they would prosper a lot more. But they didn't really listen, sort of thing, and you know, they passed a lot of treaties. Like one of them, do apologize, got some notes up, one of my old notes, just check, which is on the website for you, is, what's the treaty called very quickly? So the treaty was in 1906 called a Protectorate Treaty. Now before that though, DoSan had actually emigrated away from all the issues to the USA, and this is where An Chang-ho got his name DoSan. DoSan literally translates to island mountain. Now, what was happening, obviously, on the steamboat on the way to America is through the Pacific Ocean, they went past the island of Hawaii. Now, Hawaii, as you imagine, is an island, quite a mountainous island, and it's he had a bit of an epiphanous moment, really, because it was so, like, you know, the waves were crashing around and stuff, and yet there was this big island, resolute amongst all the uncertainty and all the waves and all the unpredictability of the sea. And An Chang-ho thought to himself, right, when I return to Korea, I'm going to be like this, is I'm going to be a strong, resolute figure amidst all the uncertainty and the tumultuous waves like the sea. So he became DoSan, Island Mountain. Now, this 1906 Protectorate Treaty, as we're going on about, is one of the reasons where DoSan decided to return back to Korea and went back. And what he did is he operated a ceramic kiln, and what he did with this money is he used it to fund schools and educating of Koreans, because at the time Japan was now really starting to close tight-fisted, you know, put tight-fisted measures onto the Koreans, and they were shutting down the schools with the idea that if they were illiterate, the Koreans were illiterate, the Japanese could control them better because they were more superiorly intellectual. Obviously doesn't sound that way with me, does it? But it's just so that they would have more knowledge and effectively create a bit of a slave class with the Koreans so they could control them better. Now what happened though is we'll find out when we get to the Blue Belt, is that An Jung-gun assassinated Hirobumi Ito and after that they started cracking down on Korean officials a lot more, and then unfortunately DoSan, his school was shut down, even though he tried to operate for a while, and he had to flee, and he disappeared off to Manchuria to start with, in China, and then ended up going to Siberia, to Europe, to the USA, but eventually came back again after the, let me check my notes again, when the Yi dynasty was forced into the Japanese Empire. So they had to kind of, you know, he came back and he created an underground government. Now, after this is the underground government claimed independence in 1919, and there was 33 of them, and DoSan, or An Chang-ho, was the leader of this underground government. So they stood in a park in modern day Seoul and basically said, yeah, inform the Japanese military police, and the relative authorities said, right, we're going independent, just letting you know. There was mass demonstrations, reportedly millions of people turned around across the country, and the Japanese met them with a lot of force. And yeah, so it was called the Samuel movement, and about 50,000 people were arrested. It was a lot more wounded than that. Yeah, about 10,000 people died. It was it was one of the most. I think it's the most, like, on recorded history. I think it's the most like massacres in a peaceful demonstration there's been in recorded history at a peaceful demonstration. So DoSan sort of headed up this and tried to basically loosen the grip on the Koreans that the Japanese had hold of them. From everything they were doing until they eventually emancipated in 1945 after the Second World War. And so he was a really, really big key figure actually in Korean history, and a very, very important man.